Since Charles Orville's perfect woman had a terrible morning sickness, he made a choice that my son's blood, as someone who was descended from a royal embalmer, was something evil and not good for her. He quickly ordered people to take blood from my 5-year-old son, his own son. Immediately, I knelt on the ground and begged him, our son is only 5 years old. A blood transfusion will kill him. If the wound gets infected, it will immediately kill that poor boy. If you want to punish someone, come to me. I will give you my life if you just let the child go. Charles held Annette Gray in his arms and looked at me coldly. He then said, if you hadn't been working with corpses all year like your family, the blood in our son's body would not be dirty. Besides, it's just a small operation. Once the evil spirit around him is gone, we can continue our lives happily. The Orville family has already given you the position as Mrs. Orville. A crazy embalmer who deals with corpses like you should not expect too much. That night, my son died from complications caused by too much blood loss and infection. Yet, Charles acted like nothing happened. Instead, he dared to rent a yacht and set off fireworks all night to make Annette happy, while showing it off to my face. At dawn, I kneeled and slowly yet surely moved inside the mansion until I reached my mother-in-law, Mrs. Orville. I can no longer control the evil spirit of the Orville family. The 5-year agreement is over. From now on, I owe the Orville family nothing. At the door of the operating room, as my son's blood was drained out, the evil spirit around him slowly disappeared too. I stood there, staring blankly in the direction of my son. At the time, I felt as if my heart had shattered. My mother-in-law stood nearby. Tears filled her eyes as she looked at me with her face full of pain. Alex is the only grandson of the Orville family. The century-old curse still depends on him to hold it back. Don't worry, I will save the child even if it costs me my life. Joanne, Charles has become a monster. He can no longer tell right from wrong. When Alex is safe, I will be the first one who won't forgive Charles. As soon as she finished talking, I heard some nurses chatting nearby with excitement. Isn't that the head of the Orville family? And the woman next to him must be his wife? I heard they have been married for 5 years. It's amazing to see them being lovey-dovey. I also heard that Mr. Orville bought a new yacht just to make his wife happy. If someone did that for me, I would be willing to lose 10 years of my life. My mother-in-law's face turned very ugly. Don't worry, Joanne. The only Mrs. Orville I recognize will be you. I will never recognize anyone else. I'll call that crazy son right now and make him apologize to you in person. With shaking hands, Mrs. Orville dialed Charles's number. Yet, she got no response as she was hung up on 3 times before he finally answered. His voice sounded hoarse and full of desire. Good baby, be gentle, you almost bit the junior off. Ah, I hate your mouth, you're teasing me again. My mother-in-law's face turned red with anger when she heard Charles's voice. She immediately shouted into the phone, you fucking ungrateful son, what the hell are you doing? Do you know that Joanne Dash? Before she could finish, Charles interrupted her with a cold voice. What now? Do you want to tell me the kid is dying again? Enough already. She made hundreds of calls last night. Isn't that enough drama? Can't she even lie properly? It was just a small surgery. It's impossible for someone to die. Joanne this, Joanne that, all day long. Don't forget, I am your son and the successor of the Orville family. Who is Joanne? She is not even as good as a dog. Her lies make me sick. My mother-in-law tried to say something else, but Charles hung up on her. The air suddenly became so quiet that it was hard to breathe. I looked at my mother-in-law. Both of us seemed like dead people standing there. At that moment, the lights in the operating room turned off. The doctor came out, his face full of anger. Who told you to replace the child's blood with pig's blood? Are you crazy? Do you have any common sense at all? Pig's blood is not the same as human blood. No wonder he got infected. We're very sorry, ma'am. We tried to save him, but it was no use. The poor kid has died. This is really terrible. My body kept shaking badly when I heard what the doctor just said. Without further ado, my mother-in-law hurried over to support me so that I could barely stand. It felt like my whole world just fell apart. I had thought that Charles only wanted to replace my son's blood to get rid of the evil spirit inside him. However, I never expected that he would actually use pig's blood, which was completely wrong for the bloodline of a royal embalmer. How could he do that? Tears filled my eyes as the sound of Alex's painful crying before his death kept echoing inside my ears, refusing to leave. I watched helplessly as my son's small body, which was now covered with a white cloth, was pushed out of the operating room. His body, drained of all blood, had turned a terrifying purple-blue color that made my heart break into pieces. My poor son had to endure this for his evil father's acts. When I realized it, I could not hold it in anymore. I screamed loudly, rushing forward to where my son's body lay. Nevertheless, there was one thing that became clear. The evil spirit that had always surrounded him had already completely disappeared. Without the protection from the royal embalmer's blood, the ancient curse of the Orville family had started to show its terrible effects once again. That family was doomed. My mother-in-law looked very scared. Her face turned as pale as paper. She grabbed my hand tightly while speaking with guilt in her tone. Joanne, I beg you. Alex was just a little child. Please don't blame everything on Charles. You can still have other children in the future. I will teach Charles a lesson this time and make him deal properly with that homewrecker outside. Please, don't leave. I beg you on my knees. If you leave, the Orville family will be completely destroyed. Everyone here will die. Yet, her words seemed distant and meaningless to me. It was as if they were coming from very far away. Meanwhile, I slowly reached out and touched my son's shriveled little cheek as I felt how cold and lifeless it had become. 100 years ago, the Orville family had been cursed. For decades, Hay had spent a huge amount of money trying to find a way to stop it. The only method that worked was using the evil energy inside the blood of royal embalmers to fight against the curse, like using poison to cure poison. That bloodline had been passed down to me and now, I was the only one left in the world with it. In order to save lives and gather the negative energy needed, I agreed to marry into the Orville family. The deal was for 5 years. Unfortunately, even draining my own blood was not enough. Eventually, I had to use my son's blood too, just to barely keep the Orville family safe. I had thought that because of my sacrifice, both my son and I could live a peaceful life after the 5 years were over. But I never imagined that everything would change so badly. I gently pulled the white cloth back over my son's body and spoke calmly, as if I no longer had any emotions left. Mrs. Orville, the 5-year agreement has ended. Without Alex, I can no longer hold down the evil spirit of the Orville family by myself. It is time. This is fate. I have done all the good I could. From now on, there is nothing left between me and the Orville family. My mother-in-law realized that she could not change my mind as her face turned even whiter. After a long silence, she tried to find another reason to make me stay a little longer. Joanne, as Alex's mother, you must attend your child's funeral, right? I know you are very sad, so I will take care of everything. You only need to come on time, please, I beg you. I understood very clearly that she only wanted me to stay a few more days, using the funeral as an excuse. The more days I stayed in the Orville family home, the slower the curse would spread and hurt them. However, I shook my head stiffly and looked at my son's cold body. There is no need. I will take Alex's body back to the old mansion, according to the ancestral rules of royal embalming, and bury him there. This place is not good for Alex. Besides, it is also not a good place for me either. Seeing how firm I was, my mother-in-law finally gave up trying to convince me. She lowered her head and said in a trembling voice, I am really sorry, Joanne. I did not teach my son well. The Orville family has wronged you. If you want to leave, I will not stop you. I told her that it would take 3 days to prepare all the necessary things for the funeral. Thanks to that, I would stay at the Orville family mansion for 3 more days to collect the scattered parts of my son's spirit. That way, Alex could be reborn peacefully. My mother-in-law's eyes turned red with pain, but she still arranged for the driver to take me back to the Orville family's mansion. However, when I entered the house, I was immediately greeted by the sight of clothes scattered messily all over the floor. In my son's bedroom, 2 figures were tangled together on the bed. Annette's eyes looked dreamy and seductive, while her cheeks were red with excitement. She said in a soft, sweet voice, the priest said that the boy's bed is the best place to get rid of evil spirits. As long as we sleep on this bed for 3 days and 3 nights, no bad luck will happen to us anymore. Even though it was such an obvious lie, Charles still accepted it happily without thinking at all. He grabbed Annette's waist even tightly, while his movements on top of her became even rougher and more eager.